Good morning and thank you for joining us for today's webinar entitled Digital Service Transformation for Local Councils with Francesca Tai from Harlow Council, Will Huggins from Zucha and Tom Bianchi from Acquia. If you experience any audio issues, please send them in the Q&A tab and I'll assist you. If you have any questions for presenters, please submit them in the Q&A tab and they'll be answered at the end of the presentation. Slides and recordings of this webinar will be posted to acquia.com and also sent to you via email, so do be sure to look out for them. Without further ado, I'll pass you over to Tom Bianchi.
Thank you. Welcome to everybody and thanks for joining today's webinar entitled Digital Service Transformation for Local Councils. My name's Tom Bianchi and I'll be your host and moderator for today's session. I'm responsible for marketing across Europe here at Acquia, and as many of you already know, Acquia is the developer of the world's only open digital experience platform, and that's designed specifically to help you build, run, and optimize Drupal sites. And it's the only Drupal experience, the digital experience platform that's made for Drupal. So today's webinar is focusing on a recent project that Harlow Council embarked on to upgrade their website from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. Hopefully from today's webinar, your key takeaways should be, firstly, to have a better understanding of how Harlow Council used their website and the outline of the project that took place. Secondly, it's how Zucha, our partner agency, uses Acquia Cloud to provide Drupal-based websites for its customers. And also a little bit around how the pandemic has recently impacted communication style, particularly during a crisis type situation. So without further ado, I just wanted to introduce our panelists. So I'm pleased to have with us today, the running order for today. Welcome and introduction from me. We'll then dive into the case study a little bit. We'll also look at how Zucha has helped Harlow during this project, and we'll explore that through a question and answer session. We'll then hear from our partner agency Zucha with a summary of the project, and then there'll be a chance for everybody on the call to answer or ask any questions for our panelists to answer. So let me introduce our panelists. So firstly, a warm welcome to Francesca Tai, who's the Web Communications Officer at Harlow Council. Francesca, welcome, and you helped Harlow through the whole project and led that project on their side. So thanks for joining us. And a big warm welcome to Will Huggins as well, CEO and co-founder of Zucha. Will, you've been running digital transformation projects for more than 20 years, both in the public and private sector. And you co-founded Zucha in 2009. So really looking forward to hearing your story today. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Great. So without further ado then, Francesca, I wanted to firstly invite you to just tell us a little bit about the Harlow Council project and what's happened with the upgrade from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So I joined Harlow Council just over 2 years ago. And when I joined, I inherited a website that had been built in about 2012. So it was about 6 years old when I arrived at Harlow. The relationship with our previous supplier had kind of stagnated a bit. The main contact providing support for the website was based in a different country, and we didn't have great communication, and work on the website had really kind of gone stale. And at the same time, there were problems with the design and the content. With the design, it wasn't particularly accessible. So we had problems with the text size being really small. It was difficult even for me to read it. The navigation relied on like flyout menus, which were really difficult to operate, and many aspects of the site were not keyboard operable. Also, the page templates were really limited, so we only ever had one way of presenting information, which often meant just one page with tons of information on it, which people had to wade through. And we were seeing increasing numbers of our visitors using mobile, over 50%. But our website was still built for a desktop kind of audience, which was a big problem for us because the website didn't respond well to different devices. And also the structure was really non-existent. So we were finding increasingly people coming to our website were not coming to our homepage and then navigating through the website. They were coming straight in from Google, but they had no way, once they dropped in from Google to a specific page, they had no way of knowing where they were in the website or what section they were in or related pages and things like that. So that was a big problem for us. And then in terms of the content, a lot of the content was poorly written. It was designed largely from the council's perspective. So things like a caravan license would be not in the licensing section as you would expect, but in like the environmental health section, which was like really difficult for people to be able to understand. So yeah, a lot of the content was written from a council perspective rather than a user. And yeah, so it was time for us really to go back to the drawing board and start afresh, putting the user first and at the heart of the design and the content.
Yeah, absolutely. And Will, I wanted to bring you in here. What was Zucha's initial thoughts about the project, and how did you end up getting involved?
Yeah, so really two things attracted us to the project. One is that we've been working on digital transformation projects with local authorities for a few years beforehand, and most recently with Greater London Authority, where we'd learnt a great deal about kind of using Drupal to deliver accessible and intuitive experiences for citizens, residents, and businesses within a local authority context. And we felt we had quite a lot to bring to Harlow Council in terms of learnings that could help with their digital transformation. Also, we are reasonably local to Harlow, and a number of the Zucha team live within the local authority catchment. So it felt quite a personal project to us, as well as one we felt we could add value to on a professional level.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's quite a nice feature actually of that project. I guess it's not often you get to support your local community, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. So, Francesca, thanks for the intro that you gave us a moment ago. Could you talk about, from a Harlow Council perspective, did this upgrade in the web content management system behind your website contribute to any of the strategic initiatives at the council?
Yeah, I guess like many councils, we're concerned about making more of our services online. I guess even for older residents, I think people often assume that older residents don't use the internet, but even for someone who's 70, the website the internet has been around for like 30 years. So even people in an older generation are pretty adept at using online services. So, and that's only going to increase as time goes on. So it's a big priority for us to make sure that we're meeting the needs of an increasingly digital enabled kind of audience. It also costs us quite a lot to run our call center, which takes a big portion of our customer inquiries. So we want to move people away from phone and email and help people to help themselves. At the moment, it's still easier for some people to pick up the phone than it is to do something online. So that's a big priority for us going forward, is making it easier to do stuff online than to pick up the phone.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. So when you kind of embarked on the project, knowing those initiatives from the council's top level perspective, were there any kind of key outcomes or objectives that you were looking to achieve as part of the project?
I think there were three key success factors for the project. That was, it had to be accessible, not only because of the public sector accessibility regulations that were coming in, but also because we kind of believe that a more accessible website is good not only for people using assisted tech, but for everyone. Better accessibility often means better usability for everyone. So that was a big priority for us. And then the second kind of priority was it had to be structured clearly, so better navigation systems and easier for a user to orientate themselves in the website. And then finally, it had to be designed mobile first to meet the kind of increasing mobile usership of our website.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so, Will, knowing those kind of key objectives of the project, then in practical terms, how did you guys really get stuck into the project and support the Harlow web team through it?
Yeah, so one of the things that immediately became a priority for us was to establish a way of working that enabled us to have a real collaborative process throughout the design and the development of the new website. It's the fact that Francesca isn't surrounded by an army of digital service managers. So we knew that supporting Francesca with kind of that product management and product ownership element as well was really important. So we started with establishing those kind of agile ways of working, and throughout the project we had regular show and tells, which enabled Francesca and the Harlow Council team to have real ownership and oversight of the design decisions that we're making at every step of the way. And using that agile process, I think it really helped to reduce some of the burden on Francesca in terms of sign off and key decision gates.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I really like that approach actually. And as a marketer myself, right, our own digital experience is important to our end audience. And Francesca, maybe coming back to you, one of the things that's top of mind for my team always is, how do we create content that resonates with our audience and really speaks their language? So could you start to tell us a little bit more about the content side of the process at Harlow Council?
Yeah, so before we started looking for a new supplier, we reviewed all the content that was on the website. We actually spoke to another council, Chelmsford City Council, who'd gone through a similar kind of rebuild just before we were thinking about doing it, and they emphasised the importance of looking at the content before looking for a new CMS, which was really helpful for me. And it kind of made me realise that even with a brand spanking new website with a great design and that looks lovely, if people can't really understand the content on the page or can't get what they need from it, then the website still isn't working, it isn't going to meet people's needs. So we decided to, like I said, review the content on every single page, and we built a new style guide that was heavily influenced by the Gov Digital Services style guide. And that was really focused on being more approachable. So making sure that we're talking on the website as if we were talking to people face to face, and making sure that we were starting from a place of understanding and doing away with this kind of we are the council and you are the resident kind of approach, which was really dated, we kind of felt. And then the other priority was about being clearer, so not hiding behind ambiguity, like we may fine you or we may send you a penalty charge. Like either we will or we won't. Let's be clear, and no more hiding behind like kind of passive verbs of like a letter will be sent to you. Well, who's going to send the letter? So it was about being more approachable and clear, and just not hiding behind jargon too much anymore, so that everyone could understand what we were trying to say, and they could get whatever they needed to get from the page quicker and simpler.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Will, I think you and Zucha helped out with the style guide approach here, right?
Yeah, so kind of following on from using the gov.uk approach to content design, we used a lot of the gov.uk style patterns from the service design manual to ensure there was consistency across the site. So not just in terms of the content and how it's presented to the user, but also some of the more functional elements. So things like button design and ensuring consistency around how users navigate between different related pages was following the gov.uk kind of service manual, but also overlaying on that the Harlow Council brand guidelines. So we extended those to ensure that they were fully accessible, and were able to overlay on the gov.uk service manual approach to deliver a really consistent, easy to use and functional website experience.
Yeah, definitely. And so a big part of this, aside from just having the style guide and the tonality of what you're saying, of course, is that content creation, Francesca, that you talked about before. And I imagine that involves more than just you and your team. So which other stakeholders at Harlow Council were involved in in the content creation process?
Yeah, so we had to work with virtually every team in the council, which was probably one of the most challenging aspects of the project, because different people across the council have different perceptions of content. Some people, when I approached people and said, it's time to kind of review your content, some people were like, "Oh, great! We haven't looked at our content for 3 years. Like, thanks for doing this for us." Whereas other teams were like, "How dare you? Like, don't touch our content. It's mine. Not yours." So dealing with those different kind of perceptions of content was quite challenging. But I think what was most important is when you have those challenging kind of conversations or challenging teams, is kind of making sure they feel involved in the process. So stressing the fact that they had a lot of key information that they could give me, like that they had a lot of information about customer kind of inquiries that I didn't know about, and a lot of information about legislation and just like the key information that needs to be on a page. So I kind of stressed their involvement and how important it was, but at the same time that they were going to give me information, and then I was going to design it into something that I felt could go on the web page, and then they could kind of sign it off. So that was kind of how I dealt with that.
Yeah, definitely. And so you've moved then to this new style of creating content. You were working with all of these stakeholders. You've now delivered the project, but in more recent times, we've all been impacted by this pandemic. How, if anything, did the pandemic affect the content creation process or the updating of fresh content on the website? Did there need to be new content added to the website specifically because of the pandemic?
Yeah, definitely. So I think at the council, we've got this tendency to like fall back on leaflets or posters or things like that, which is like a hangover from like 20 years ago. But during this crisis, people have really had to rely on the website. That's been our main and really only way of communicating with residents during this crisis. So it's really put a new kind of spotlight on the website, which has been quite positive. I think like in this situation, the new kind of tone we're adopting has really been useful in this crisis, because that kind of old formal institutional kind of way of speaking, it doesn't cut the mustard in a crisis situation. So I think that's been really important, and being able to use the website to the new kind of page layouts we've had on the new website, which Sutra created for us, have been really helpful, because with coronavirus, we've had so much information, and organizing it has been a real kind of challenge. If we had our old website, it just would have been one page with like, you would have taken like 20 minutes to scroll to the bottom of it. But having these new kind of page templates has allowed us to like split up that information and make it a lot easier for people to find what they are specifically interested in.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think I heard a very insightful quotation recently, which boiled down to a single line, essentially means that right now it's all about the small human moments. And so communicating to people in a succinct and relatable way, I think, is so important.
Yeah.
So we're going to just pause for a second here, because we would also like to know the audience's perspective. And we're going to run a quick poll. Now, in just one moment, you should see the poll pop up on your screen, and the question for this poll is: out of the following themes, which is your top priority? So I'm going to just pause for a minute while you all fill in that poll. Okay. Hopefully you've all had a chance to click one of these, and you should see here some of the themes that we've been talking about today: accessibility, usability, mobile first, and content design. All important factors when it comes to how should you structure a website project, how do you build a website, and what's important to the user experience at the end of it. Okay, I think if we can finish the poll there. Look at the results. Usability, 67% of the respondents. Yeah, I think I would agree with that. It's interesting to see accessibility actually coming up a hot second there. I think that is becoming increasingly aware and increasingly important. And I think it's become to the kind of second or third step in our priorities more recently, not only because of more and more users being of an older generation, for example, or otherwise, but more so with the pandemic, as different types of users have now had to resort to becoming reliant on websites and things like that. So very interesting. Thank you all for your votes there. So Francesca, Will, coming back to our Q&A session, I think now it would be great to hear how the project has gone overall, and let's talk about the success of the project. So Francesca, right at the beginning, you talked about those success factors. How do you feel you did against those measurement criteria?
Yeah, well, we were really pleased with how the project went. I think, as Will alluded to earlier, it was a massive advantage for us to have to be working with a local company. We were able to kind of meet with Zucha face to face over any kind of sticking points or things that needed ironing out, and that was a massive advantage, which really helped us. And I think that's a big reason why the designs that Zucha came up with were already so close to what we had in mind, and were actually even better, which was great. But yeah, in terms of the success factors, yeah, we felt like we definitely met all of them. I think now, in terms of the structure, when you drop into a page, there's like a breadcrumb trail, so people can see where they've come from. There's also related pages along the side which help people kind of orientate themselves. It's clear how to get around the website. And with the accessibility, we tested with a group of users, and it's now fully keyboard operable, which was a big kind of marker for us. And we use Site Improve as the tool to kind of measure our accessibility on a kind of day-to-day basis, and our score improved by over 30% on there, which we were really happy with. And yeah, with the responsive design as well, we feel like even things like tables, which we were really struggling before, are now they respond really great on iPad or mobile, which was a big sticking point for us before.
Yeah, definitely. And Will, from the Zucha side, obviously you guys were key in helping get to that point. When it comes to the simplified interface and those kind of usability and accessibility features, I'm assuming you were, but how did you find the outcome? Were you pleased with it?
Yeah, but very much so. I mean, the key things that we wanted to make sure we were getting right were really ensuring that the digital experience for users is as seamless as possible. So that's everything from optimizing the performance of the site, so pages load really quickly, through to the responsiveness and accessibility of all of the content, to ensure that everybody can access and use the content regardless of digital skill or any assistive digital needs. So ensuring that the pages work really well with screen readers, for example, was a key focus, and one that we felt it's a standout success of the project.
Yeah, I would agree completely. And so, Francesca, from your perspective, what's sort of the biggest benefit to you, either as an organisation or to the residents, now that you've kind of finished the rebuild?
Yeah, to us as an organisation, probably the relationship we have with Zucha, really. When I compare with before, how we didn't really communicate with our old supplier. It took ages to get responses to things. Like, having a good relationship with your supplier is something we weren't aware of the benefits of that beforehand. But now because we have a better relationship, we're able to work consistently on like smaller improvement projects on a more regular basis, which help us kind of keep on top of the website and keep ensuring that we're always improving, which I think is a big positive for us. But also just simple things like, because like I was saying before with the coronavirus situation, now we have so much more flexibility in page templates. It gives us so much more control over how we present information, which is a massive advantage. And the back end system, like the content editing on Drupal 8 for us was a lot easier to use than compared to Drupal 7. And then finally, I think we're also just seeing like an increase in people using our online processes. Like certain processes have gone up between 5 and 10% over the last couple of months since we launched a new website, which has been a key kind of metric for us.
Fantastic. So thinking about where we are today, now that the project's concluded, and maybe keeping in mind some of those stakeholder relationships that we talked about with the content process before, what do you think you've kind of learned through this whole project that's helping you as a council operate better in the future?
Yeah, I think like the stakeholder reaction has been pretty positive. I think as other people work in different councils will know, it's quite hard to get stakeholders to engage in websites, and sometimes no news is good news. But I think one thing we'll take away from this process is that I think as a comms team or a web team, we've got back control over a lot of the content. I think when I kind of joined, it was at a state where a lot of people felt like they wrote content and they were the team's web pages, whereas I wanted to get back to the website being something that the web team built and kind of owned, but people contributed to that. So I think that was the biggest takeaway from the process was, getting back that control.
Yeah, definitely. And then just finally, and I'll ask this question to both of you, just because it's topical at the moment, was there any particular immediate knee-jerk changes to either your organization, to your team, or even to a website that you've had to adjust to during the coronavirus pandemic that you could maybe give tips and tricks around for anybody else listening on the webinar today? Will, do you want to go first?
Okay. So, I mean, I think the key thing that we've been focusing on as an organisation is ensuring that communication is as human as it can be when you're not in the same room or office or building. And that's been a really important, I think, learning for us is that whilst we were all already very familiar with using digital communication channels as a company with both our team and with our clients, actually stress testing them under the current lockdown situation has been a real challenge, but one that I think we've kind of met with real enthusiasm, and I think will actually change the ways of working for us as an organisation beyond this current crisis, and hopefully we'll act to improve the partnership approach that we already have with our clients as well. Yeah,
great. And Francesca, from your side?
Yeah, well, I think we've had to rely more on online communication in this kind of situation, and promoting even though we're closed, the council buildings are closed, promoting the fact that there are still quite a lot of online processes that people can do while we're closed has been important for us. And I think like during April we saw a 10% increase in the use of our online kind of forms, which is kind of unprecedented for us. We haven't really seen more than a 3% increase before. So seeing more people using our online offering has been really, really positive. But I guess the challenge now for us is, can we keep those people who are using the online tools, and are they good enough to keep people coming back to keep using them?
Yeah, I certainly think there are going to be lots of consumer, or in this case resident, behaviours that will change going forward in a permanent manner. I saw a very interesting statistic that, or set of statistics that essentially says that Alibaba became the biggest online retailer in Asia, not because of its success or marketing strategy or ease of use, but because during the SARS pandemic in 2007, 2008, it changed Chinese consumer buying behavior permanently.
Mm.
So I think it's going to be very interesting to see if that has an effect for us going forward. So thank you for that Q&A session. What I'd now like to do is, Will, if you may, I'd love for you to just kind of summarize the whole project and give us the top to bottom as you see it with those key inputs and outputs. So over to you.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I think the key part of the project that established a platform for success was the ways of working that we created with the Harlow Council team and Francesca in particular. So using an agile methodology, we worked using Scrum as the framework to 2-week sprint cycles, which meant that we had enough time to get things done during the sprint, but also sufficiently frequent show and tells and demos to ensure that we had this really high level of collaboration and engagement throughout the design and development phases. And also really kind of embedding those agile principles so that we were operating as a single team with shared purpose. So we had daily scrums and, as I mentioned earlier, kind of regular show and tell demos to make sure that the entire process was really collaborative and gave Francesca and the Harlow Council team real oversight and governance of the decision-making processes. So next slide. And yeah, I think throughout everything that we've been kind of building with the Harlow Council team, we wanted to keep it user-centric. So really making sure that all the decisions that we're making, whether to do with kind of the website functionality itself or technology decisions that underpin that everything's centered around the user. And that manifests itself in the website as easier navigation and making sure the content and the functionality of the website is more accessible and usable for everybody that's accessing it. And that's underpinned by the gov.uk design principles. So as I mentioned earlier, we expanded the Harlow Council brand guidelines and then overlaid on top the gov.uk design principles and built this really inclusive style guide that now ensures consistency across the whole site. Next slide. And yeah, in terms of technology layer, so we had a challenging budget constraint with the project, and so open source really lent itself to being able to deliver the outputs and the successes that were required, but keeping the total cost down for Harlow Council. So by combining Drupal as an open source platform and the Acquia platform to power it, we've been able to create a single CMS that Harlow Council use for both their public website and for the intranet site, and using single sign-on to ensure that their back office processes are seamless and keeping them able to manage the site without kind of friction. And again, that flows into the CMS interface. To keep within budget, we used open source tools on top of Drupal, so things like Thunder, which is a distribution of Drupal, which provides an easier publishing interface for Drupal 8, and that helps the Harlow Council team to manage the information architecture and the menu system without any technical intervention, and also give them flexible page layouts to enable them to create different types of content depending on what they're trying to communicate with the user. And yeah, in terms of success, I mean, as I say, one of the things that we were focusing on was ensuring that all of the elements of the customer experience were optimized. So everything from performance and page load speeds, the accessibility, obviously the technology that underpinning it to ensure that it's reliable and secure. And also importantly, ensuring that it's optimized for search engines, knowing how important search engines are as an entry point to the website. We wanted to make sure that the journeys for users from those external sources into the website and beyond were as seamless as possible.
Great. Well, thank you, Will, for the summary. Thank you, Francesca, for the Q&A session. What we'd now like to do is just open this up to questions from the audience. So you should find a chat window in the Zoom interface, and I'd like to invite you to drop any questions that you have into that chat window. And just while we're waiting for those questions to come through, I've got a question just to get things going. So I'm going to ask this to both of you, in fact, but Will, maybe seeing as you've kind of got the mic, as it were, do you see any upcoming trends that local councils who are delivering digital services, should be aware of or should be thinking about?
Yeah, I think for a lot of local authorities, there's still a long way to go in the roadmap of ensuring that digital services are accessible and usable, and the content design is optimized. And I know that all of the local authorities we work with are on that journey. And so I think that will continue to be a really key priority. But in terms of technology as well, one of the areas that I know is going to start to become much more of a focus is the whole connected citizen and use of data to improve the user experience for residents and citizens within local authorities, and whether that's manifests itself through AI and chatbots, or whether it manifests itself more from CRM and making sure that communication channels are all connected and coherent. But I know for all local authorities, that's an increasingly important part of their technology and digital experience considerations.
Yeah, that personalized journey through a digital experience is going to be really important. And I think you're spot on about the connected citizen kind of approach. I think, and I wonder, just expanding on this, I'm assuming technologies like a customer data platform, a CDP, to aggregate all of those data sources and create a kind of unified view of an audience is going to be important as well, right? Being able to understand your audience and what their requirements are.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, historically, the systems, CRM systems, content management systems, have been quite siloed and not necessarily talking to each other to create an overall experience for the end user. So I think that definitely is something that's coming much sharper into focus for local authorities, is how they can build a technology landscape that connects all of those different touch points for users and creates a much more coherent dialogue with their citizens. Yes,
definitely. So I've got a question that's come through here on the panel Q&A for you, probably, Francesca, you're the best person, I think, to answer this one. So is open source an important factor when choosing a CMS for the council?
Yeah, it definitely was for us, mainly because we were on quite a tight budget anyway. So having access to all that readily available kind of open source technology was a big bonus for us. But also because we didn't really want to get locked into just working with one supplier. We'd seen some other councils where they had a bespoke CMS, but it was then quite difficult for them to, it was quite costly for them to move away from that supplier and start again. We were concerned that there was quite a short time between the website, the old website and the new website, and we didn't want to get locked into having to make costly rebuilds regularly. And we just found like we were used to Drupal. We had Drupal 7 on the old website, and the kind of flexibility it offered, as well as the good security, were a big plus for us. And in Drupal 8, the kind of commitment to mobile first and the commitment to accessibility in core really aligned very well with our priorities as well.
Definitely. And if I could ask maybe a slightly selfish question, how have you found using the Acquia digital experience platform in combination with Drupal?
Yeah, it's been really easy to use. it's just taken a lot of kind of worries away from us. It's just really easy to, like, the page load times are great. We don't have problems with any downtime. Support is quick to be resolved. So yeah, I think if I could sum it up, I would just say it's really, really simple for us. It's taken a lot of work away from us.
Fantastic. And then maybe one question just from me to close to you, Will, on the agency side. What do you like about using, Drupal with your customers?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been a Drupal specialist for about 10 years now. So our evangelism of Drupal is no secret. But what we like about Drupal and also Drupal in combination with the Acquia platform is that by using open source tools and also using the Acquia platform in conjunction, it enables us and our client partners to be able to focus resource and investment on the things that are going to really make the difference. So we've got this nice stable platform and open source tools that give us a really strong foundation on which to then make sure that the real focus in terms of optimizing those digital experiences and making sure that we're providing the seamless customer experience that everyone now expects is really what the budget is going on, instead of having to worry about reinventing the wheel with either new technologies or paying license fees for proprietary technologies.
Fantastic. Well, that's about all we've got time for today. So firstly, a big thank you to Will and to Francesca. It's been great to spend some time with you this morning and learn more about the project. A big thank you to all of you at home, probably dialing into this webinar. We hope you've enjoyed it as well and didn't mind seeing us in our homes today. And keep an eye out for the recording of this, which we'll be emailing out to everybody in a couple of days' time. If you have any questions about the webinar that you've seen today or want to get in contact with us, please feel free to do so. You should have an email in your inbox already with our contact details in. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to seeing you on one of these webinars again in the near future. Thank you.